Versatile Mage. Chapter 465. Psychic Element, Pacify. Zhao Manyan's face turned pale as his eyes opened wide, filled with horror. There were around 30 white sand demons nearby, and their shining sand sabers were only inches away from him. Zhao Manyan shivered when he recalled the deaths of the magicians. Didn't they say everything was going to be all right? Why did so many demon beasts show themselves when he had only taken a few steps? Zhao Manyan could not even make any sound. It felt like something was stuck in his throat. He almost subconsciously activated his armor equipment and cast a defensive spell. However, he immediately remembered Xingxia's words in the midst of his panic. He was quite impressed by himself, as anyone else would have totally shit their pants by now. How could anyone possibly remember her warning? If he weren't worried that casting a spell would make the situation a lot worse, Zhao Manyan would have been more than happy to cast a few layers of light protection, sacred shield on himself. He would only find some peace when his figure was wrapped inside the golden shield. Zhao Manyan clenched his teeth, his figure tensed. He did not dare to cast a spell and simply stood in the middle of the white sand demons. Compared to the 3-meter-tall white sand demons, Zhao Manyan was like a midget with tender bones and flesh, who could not possibly withstand the blows from the cruel sand sabers. Zhao Manyan managed to hold his ground in the end, but the others could not help but feel worried, especially Chen Yi, who almost rushed forward to save him. Meanwhile, Xingxia was like a sky-blue lotus, standing still on a river in the desert. Her long hair drifted in the strong wind blowing right in her direction, a pleasant scent rising around her. Her gentle face was filled with a stern look never seen before, her eyes fixed on Zhao Manyan's position. Suddenly, she closed her eyes and placed her arms on top of one another in front of her chest, as if she were trying to transmit a message with her soul in a way that was undetectable to ordinary people. Mo Fan, who was standing beside her, could only sense an energy ripple, but no matter how hard he tried, he could not identify the power that Xingxia was emanating. Perhaps it was the so-called invisible power from one's soul. Pacify. Xingxia channeled the psychic element spell. As the star pattern was completed, faint ripples, like those on the surface of clear water, appeared under her feet. Xingxia's petite figure was lifted by some unknown force, with her feet dangling right above the ground, like a forest elf standing above the calm surface of a lake on her toes. The ripples on the calm lake gradually spread outward, arriving just before the white sand demons were about to raise their sabers for some meat smashing. Zhao Manyan was on the verge of falling to the ground as his legs went weak. The white sand demons had a pair of deep, hollow eyes on their sand-made faces, and inside them was a violent, dark red flicker of light. They hated other creatures disturbing their lives the most, so if anything was brave enough to step into the drifting sand river, they were sure to fling their sabers at the trespassers. However, when the ripples landed on their bodies, their fierce and savage aura completely disappeared, as if it had been cleansed by a sacred wind. The sabers that were halfway through a blow came to a stop. The creatures shook their heads and glanced at their surroundings with confused expressions. The white sand demons exchanged glances with one another, as if they were trying to figure out why they were swinging their sabers, before turning into fine sand particles and falling away as the wind swept past, dissipating back into Zhao Manyan's surroundings in the drifting sand river. Zhao Manyan sat on the ground in the midst of the blowing sand. He could almost feel his pants getting wet, yet he managed to hold the urge back, as he was much more courageous after the incident at Jinlan City. He raised his head, glancing at the crew on the shore and forced a smile, before raising his thumb at Xingxia. It was Zhao Manyan's first time experiencing the miraculous psychic element. The violent white sand demons had completely lost their urge to kill. It was definitely the best camouflage that any magician could wish for, letting them roam freely in the wild. Unfortunately, the psychic element spell was not effective against all kinds of demon beasts. As an example, the savage sand hull tigers were immune to the psychic element. "How long are you going to wait before coming down here?" yelled Zhao Manyan unpleasantly. I thought you were going to die for sure, teased Mo Fan. Mo Fan put Xinxia onto the Swift Star Wolf's back, so she could sit on top of the beast. She could stand on her own, but she would feel extremely worn out after standing for too long, thus it was better for her to sit on the mount. The lazy Lingerling had also climbed up on the beast. When she saw the Swift Star Wolf groaning under his breath, she knocked on the Swift Star Wolf's head and asked, "Is someone complaining?" The Swift Star Wolf did not dare to offend the little naughty elf that had all kinds of ways to bully a summoned beast. He quickly behaved himself and proceeded to the drifting sand river once Lingerling and Xinxia finished adjusting their seats on him. Perhaps he too was spooked by the drifting sand river. His steps were extremely light, not daring to make any noise, afraid to trigger the white sand demons under his feet. "Xinxia, if you keep on channeling the psychic spell, doesn't that cost a lot of your energy?" asked Mo Fan. Xinxia shook her head and said, "The demon beasts here in the drifting sand river aren't as densely packed as it seems. They only gather at a specific area when someone trespasses into their territory. I've pacified the white sand demons in this area, so they won't attack us. I'll cast the spell again when we arrive in the territory of a different group of white sand demons." "Oh, that's good," Mo Fan let out a relieved sigh. "However, we didn't really estimate how long it will take us to cross the drifting sand river. I'm not sure if my energy can last until we have crossed the river," said Xinxia. As soon as Xinxia finished the words, Zhang Xiaohou and Zhao Manyan, who were enjoying their stroll up front, suddenly halted in their tracks. Clearly, they were both imagining the scene of them standing in the middle of the drifting sand river when Xinxia's energy depleted. It would surely bring them straight to the jaws of death. "The river is fairly wide, why don't we? If you're afraid, just wait for us back on the shore," mocked Mo Fan. "Not a chance, I'm just saying that I do have some potions here for your sister Xinxia to replenish her energy, just in case." Zhao Manyan had no intention of holding onto his valuable belongings, and obediently handed them to Xinxia. Now that everyone's life was relying on Xinxia, Zhao Manyan immediately treated her like a goddess. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.